to our Zoom meeting. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Renee Hobbs, and this is a Media Smart webinar. We are really glad that you have chosen to spend some time in our online community. It's a hot summer here on the East Coast, and wherever you are, you've taken time from your busy summer schedule to hang out and engage in dialogue with us. We always start the webinars with an emotional check-in. Today you can see that we're really grateful and delighted to be welcoming Gus Andrews to talk about her book, Keep Calm and Log On. And I want to give you an overview of kind of big picture of what's going to happen in the next 60 minutes and how important our engaged dialogue really is. You can see that we're going to start with an emotional check-in. We always think about where we are on the feeling zone, and we'll do that in a very unique way today, I think. Then we're going to learn some key ideas from Gus. We're going to play a small group breakout activity called Scavenger Hunt. Then we're going to come back together, have some synthesis and reflections, and then Gus will kind of take us out as we conclude the program promptly at 1 o'clock. Maybe the best way for us to introduce ourselves is with this emotional check-in. Gus, can you tell us a little bit about how you use visual propaganda in your book, Keep Calm and Log On, and why you chose to illustrate your book with examples of old propaganda?
Sure. So Keep Calm, Log On, I think of it, Keep Calm and Log On, I think of kind of a scout handbook in a way for surviving, a survival guide for surviving the digital revolution. And one of the things I think about a lot is just if we're in the middle of cyber warfare, which we are, and information warfare, what are the things that we need to do that are kind of like what our ancestors needed to do during times of crisis in the past? So the world wars, and then also the Great Depression. What are the things that were useful? So in order to sort of inspire that and shape that, I went back to the fortunately all in the public domain, which made it really helpful for getting credits for my book. Is all this art that was produced during World War II and during the Great Depression, acknowledging, of course, that like a lot of what these posters are and were doing is not unlike what we see now with memes a lot of the time. So at the same time, though, there's always stuff that we kind of agree with. So like one of my favorite ones on the screen there, and we're getting somehow a band of things. I don't know if everybody can see all of the stuff. There's something strange about screen share. Yeah, see if you can fix that one. But there's the great picture of the lady with a cabbage who's just like, dig on for victory. And I really love the idea of victory gardens. My grandma and her parents had one back in I think the 20s even. Yeah, so the victory gardens are a way that we can, there we go, great. So, you know, it's a way that we can support our communities. There are problematic aspects even of the idea of a victory garden. In some ways, there are actually some wonderful aspects too. I believe the idea was started by somebody down at, I think it was the Tuskegee Institute. So it's actually an African-American, it's a Black-led idea, which I think is great. But it's this idea of self-sufficiency and resilience. To some extent, that was because the government was like, you know, we need more for war, which really is not a great side of it. But at the same time, being able to have your community be resilient in the face of food shortages is a good thing. So, nice. Yeah, so that's one of my favorites right there. Nice.
So what we're going to do is we're going to ask everybody to introduce themselves. And if you'd like to use the Zoom annotation tool, you can see I just highlighted in green. I use the annotation tool to highlight Gus's favorite meme. Which one of these memes is your favorite and why? As you introduce yourself, make a choice. Who wants to go first? Natasha. Natasha, introduce yourself. Tell us which of these posters is your favorite one and why.
Okay, sorry, Renee. I guess you can't annotate and turn off your microphone at the same time. which I just learned. Okay, I would go with, in an ironic way, the Appreciate America one, because I am definitely not appreciating America right now. So my name is Natasha Casey. I teach communications and media studies in the Midwest of America. And yes, this would be my ironic choice.
Wonderful. Who's next?
Call them out, Renee.
Lisa. Lisa, one of these, introduce yourself to us. Not everybody.
Hi, I'm Lisa / Elisabetta Freedom. I am, yeah, it's tough to choose. I was just like looking at the Uncle Sam one. I don't know, something, the face is so, the expression on his face, there's something about it that's mesmerizing. So not even the text. So I think something about this, this like it's kind of is really interesting way to introduce this idea of like, don't discuss what's going on.
Thanks for sharing. Zainab, which one? Introduce yourself to us and pick a propaganda poster that intrigues you.
I am Zainab from Egypt. Unfortunately, we didn't teach media literacy in my country, but I'm eager to learn from you. How can you teach media to students? In my country, they try to make us aware of learning such of media and information literacy. We are very away from this topic. So I can't choose any one of these. I can choose new topics such keep silent, don't learn, keep silent.
Ah, yeah, very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Marta, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about which of these posters resonates with you this morning.
Well, I'm Marta Mejia. I'm from Puerto Rico, and well, next weekend I'm graduating finally from Master in Education, focusing in librarianship this Saturday. So I'm very glad about that. About this, thank you. These thumbnail posters. I like the one big for victory, grow your own vegetables. Well, it applied to us right now. We got to do it ourselves. Everything that we're doing, we have to do it ourselves if we really want to go ahead. We cannot depend on anything or anybody, and there's no more, there's really no collaboration, at least here. You got to stick for yourself, and you got to go on and don't look back. Just go ahead and keep doing, and creating and producing. I'm sorry.
What a great interpretation of the meaning of this propaganda poster. Alexandra and Asia, can you introduce yourself, please, and identify a poster that is speaking to you this morning?
Hello, my name is Asia. I'm sorry, Alexandra, I just stepped down. I'm from Turkey originally, but I'm joining from South Carolina, Columbia. I'm a PhD student here in USC, focusing on new literacy practices and media literacy practices. Since I'm a kind of foreigner, I'm not familiar with the background and historical or socio-political history of all those posters, amazing posters, but the one which is right left to victory part, I mean, is this tomorrow? Yeah, that one particularly interested in me. I mean, it tells a little bit, is this the one, is this the future we want for our future, for our kids, kind of. Again, I don't know if this poster is like created for the purpose I understand, but I like how this hand is a kind of shadowing a village blocking our future. As long as we are not gaining our own freedom, we will not be able to live that future, that kind of telling. So I like it pretty much.
What a beautiful interpretation. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Linda, Mariana, and Alexandra, will you introduce yourself, please, and pick out a comment on a poster that speaks to you?
Is it me? Hi everyone. I'm apologizing. Welcome to my kitchen, where I am taking part in this seminar and making lunch for my kid. So, such is the pandemic. I'm Mariana. I work in a media literacy program in Brazil, and we have been doing professional development for teachers in all grades. And the one that really speaks to me is Wake Up America, Civilization Calls, because come on, wake up world. What does it mean to be civilized right now and fight for our common ground, for our common good and the earth we stand on and what unites us as human beings. So this is the one that I'd like to reinterpret for now. And yeah. I'm going to apologize, but I'm going to keep my camera closed because I'm listening and cooking.
Thank you so much. We're really glad you're here. Erica, have you introduced yourself? Will you tell us a little bit about yourself and pick a poster that speaks to you?
Hi there. Let's see. So I am here wrangling children, so I'm probably going to keep the camera off too. But I am a huge fan of all of these. I've been looking at them. I think I'm also on Team Wake Up America, Civilization Calls, because it would be nice to live in a civilized country for a change. So
I just have to note, I'm totally delighted to see Erica here. Erica and I worked together at Second Life briefly, and also we were roommates for a little while, so it's totally awesome to see Erica here. But she also has deep bench in library science as well.
Yeah, I'm culturally, if not professionally, librarian. So I went to library school.
Who has not had a chance to introduce themselves yet? Who would like to?
I have not yet. I'm Linda McElroy. I'm from Oklahoma. Renee, I met you in Oklahoma when you came to for our Regents Reading Conference. You came back a few years later online to keep us informed and engaged. And so just thinking so differently about the role of media through the conversations that you've shared with us. The pictures have all gone away for me, but I'm going to talk about the little Mickey Mouse one that says to appreciate America. There we are. Number one, I like Mickey Mouse. He makes me smile. But more importantly, I think it's a time when we all need to look for positives as much as we can. And there's so many things that we're concerned about in our country right now. I'm in teacher education, and I'm stressing to my pre-service teachers, they need to find the positives as much as they can in every situation, and then realize what are the things we need to work on next as goals. But I think if we, this feeling of all of us and Uncle Sam and America being to celebrate, I guess it's because my parents lived through the World War II era and raised me with a sense of patriotism that came from their experiences to appreciate the positives about America.
Yeah, so important.
Gang, let's all work together to make things better.
Such a great point. And especially as we think about back to school, that attitude is important. Alexandra, yes. Introduce yourself, please, and tell us a slide or a poster that resonates with you.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. I live in Indianapolis. I am currently job hunting for an academic librarian position. I've been interested in media literacy, digital literacy, news literacy for a long time, and I'm really hoping I'll get an opportunity to teach that at some point. I'm going to actually pick the same poster, the one with Mickey Mouse, and the reason is it resonated with me because I literally just finished reading a fabulous nonfiction book on Disney, specifically the women who were Disney animators in the 30s and 40s and their untold story. And there was a section in there about the role Disney played at this time in our history, which before I had no idea. So that one jumped out at me right away.
What a wonderful way for us to do emotional check-in, right? So we have, in fact, shared a lot about our backgrounds, our interests, our personality, the way we read these posters. Gus, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us about the book and to share some ideas that are important to you before we break off into small groups and have a scavenger hunt. Take it away.
Sure. Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to folks. I see people I have met before, people I haven't met before, and it's really delightful to get to know you all better. I just think it was interesting. I want to note before we go on that the posters Renee picked, actually, some of them are ones that I actively avoided in the book just because I do a lot of work internationally. And I knew that, you know, for our colleagues in Egypt, for our colleagues in Brazil, the way they would see an American flag would be very, very different than the way people might see it in the United States. And even with the United States, people have very different ideas. So I work really hard on trying to make sure that this was, you know, more oriented towards an international audience. But interestingly enough, I find myself when I'm advertising it online, when I'm trying to put out meme stuff, I actually do gravitate back towards the American stuff because I do want this to reach Americans too. And I want it to reach Americans who are not necessarily people I would necessarily see living where I do in New York City, where I'm actually in a lot of ways a lot closer to international colleagues than I am to folks in Oklahoma or Indianapolis. So it's great to see you all here. So yeah, Keep Calm and Log On is copy of it right here. It's physical. It's so weird to have a physical book. There's a lot in here. I started out when I was pitching it. I've been pitching it since I finished my dissertation, actually, in about 2010. And really wanted to write a book to help people understand better how not to make mistakes online that were hurting their privacy and security, because my dissertation ended up being very much about that. But at the same time, as I was writing the book and as I was working through it, I realized in the interim, I went and taught media literacy at Marist College in 2012 and 2013. And I realized that I really wanted a book. I wanted the book that I could teach from my students as well, because a lot of the stuff I wanted to say about corporate ownership of media, for example, a lot of stuff I wanted to say about media in the broader view of, you know, books are also media, for example, and why do we trust certain kinds of books over other kinds of books? And I wanted to put that all in perspective. And so there's a tremendous amount in the book. There, I kind of kitchen sinked it, and there's kind of a lot there, but I hope it ends up being a useful tool for all of you as well. So I'll give a brief overview of sort of how the shape of the book goes. The first two chapters are really working hard on helping people not feel like they have some deficiency in technology, like they're bad at technology in some way. Because I think a lot of us are sort of like, I'm not techie. And that ends up sort of getting us into a place where we're anxious and worried and don't feel like we are empowered to take care of problems in technology ourselves. So the first two chapters are there, and that ends up being kind of like a shape that is really almost like a self-help book in a lot of ways. And yeah, Renee's got the website up here. You can see if you scroll up to she's got the one at the top. So on the website are a lot of resources that correspond with the chapters. The top part is obviously COVID stuff, and then it goes into no one is born good at technology, and then look for the helpers. Yeah, so if you're teaching the book, maybe the first couple chapters might not be necessarily, you might be teaching millennials, and so they might feel more confident in their use of technology. But at the same time, I've also had a lot of friends who are a little bit younger than me, I'm in my 40s, say to me, the next chapter is about like not letting the internet stress you out by being full of negative stuff all the time. And then also conserving your attention are really important to them too. My friend Dawn Darby the other day was like, there's so much truth in this book. And she was mostly responding to, you know, how the internet will stress you out. So I moved from this sort of like looking at your self-concept on technology into not freaking out and not panicking about things, learning ways to mindfully avoid negative news and look for positive things, into a section on attention. because this is where we get into the metaphors of the World War II and the Great Depression art, where a lot of times in wartime they were saying, conserve scrap metals, conserve paper, conserve rubber, we need them at the front. Right now, we need to conserve is attention, because honestly, if you look at what international nation state actors are doing, like Russia, for example, or even our own governments, I know Brazil, there's a massive concern with disinformation as well. Being able to pull your attention away from the fire hose of all of the information, conserve it, and intentionally use it for things that you want for your life and for your community are really important to do. So I have a lot of techniques in there and a lot of tactics on how to do that. I go briefly into conversation online and how conversation online is different and how that impacts us emotionally as well, right? So like why we end up in fights a lot of the time, among other things. And then from there, the whole second section of the book is on security, basically, and privacy. So if you're teaching media literacy, this may or may not be of as much interest to you, but I actually see what comes into your inbox in particular as a security issue as well, right? So it's a security and information literacy issue. If you have a phishing email that shows up in your inbox, you need to be able to notice that a phishing email is also going to try to upset you to get you to move quickly to make a bad decision, right? So that is also part of this as well. So there's all the privacy and security stuff in there. And if you're looking at the website has a tremendous amount of practical resources. It actually has tools you can use to improve your security, and there's a lot of steps you can take. For those who are actually looking at pitching books themselves, I know Elizabeth is looking at writing books on this stuff. One of the things I had to do for the editors is say, they were like, this is all going to go stale really quickly because it's all about technology. How are we going to keep from doing that? And I was like, I will have a website, and the website will have the easily updatable stuff that we don't need to put into book forms. The book's not out of date. And then I had 2 jobs where I have to update the website as well. But I hope it's of use. There's a lot of stuff in there from the internet freedom community that I work with. Moving on to section, another thing to note in there is that at the end of that section is something on safer relationships online. I've drawn a lot on stalking, harassment, and relationship abuse. There's a lot of tools that can be useful there, whether that's useful to you or useful to your students. That tool is there for you as well. Section 3, sometimes there's more stuff on the website and more stuff in the book. Section 3, I'm very much talking about trust. And so I start out looking at trust developmentally, how we develop trust as infants and children by having consistent people around us, and how that feeds into our biases too, how we come to trust people who are similar to us in a lot of ways, and maybe not trust people who aren't. So this begins to get into the great work that the folks at the Media Ed Lab have been doing on propaganda, understanding which information you're going to trust, the way that the Institute for Propaganda Analysis suggested we look at media back in the 1930s, which is great because there's this great dovetail between the actual propaganda, the poster propaganda in the book, and the stuff that the Institute for Propaganda Analysis was talking about, which is really, really neat. So you can actually, at that point, sort of look at these posters and go, what were the biases that they were trying to get people to, act on? And then how does that relate to social media today, where there's actually activities in that section where you can do some work on your opinion's family tree and where it comes from, thinking about the history of your opinion, and then looking at given texts and sort of going, what are the actions they want us to take? Who is represented, who's not represented? How might different people react to these messages in different ways, and the sort of traditional media literacy thing. And finally, section 4, I need to represent better on the website somehow. I'm sort of continually adding stuff there. But section 4 is where I get into that thing I was saying, where I really want people to think about why they trusted traditional media as well. Like, why print media? Why did we trust journalism more than other writing? Why did we trust books more than other writing? So I actually dive in and do something that it's some heavy lifting, but I think it actually, I worked very hard. If anybody's familiar with the Association for College and Research Libraries, the Acrls framework for information literacy, what I'm doing in the 4th section of the book is used very closely to that. So I was actually looking at the ACRL today, trying to remind myself, like, what were the points. So one of the things they want people to understand, they want students to understand, is authority is constructed and contextual. So I actually go into a brief overview of how does science construct authority? How does journalism construct authority? How do historians construct authority? And so there's sort of a quick overview there that should help anybody who's working with basic, 100 level students who are new to looking at information literacy and sort of understanding why academic texts even are contextual, and then relating that to, if you find one of these scholars tweeting online, how does that change what you, how you want to trust what they're saying there? Does that somehow impact the sense of authority? Information creation as a process is another thing that the ACRL wants people to understand, and I've got that also, looking at how books get published, how academic articles get published, how the news gets published. And I go into Wikipedia as well. There's a section on, how do we create Wikipedia articles? And that actually also is very much online. There's a good bunch of links to where Wikipedia and how Wikipedia talks about authority, like how it makes claims to being authoritative. I surprised myself with this because I was sort of like, yeah, we're all like, nah, Wikipedia. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that Wikipedia does its work up front. Like, it will say to you, here are people following the rules. And you can send your students into the edit page on Wikipedia and go, like, what is the argument that people are having about this particular fact that's being put forward here? So that's there. And then finally, Renee flashed up there briefly, I go into algorithms. So why do we trust that search engines are authoritative? What are the things in search? How does that get constructed so that we, why do some results rise to the top? And should we trust those results? How do we know what goes into that? So especially the demand and ingredients list for digital algorithm mystery meat is in there. That lets you know both a little bit about how search engines rise things to the top, but also why things show up in your social media feeds a little bit higher than others. And then how do we, as a community, demand more transparency there? There's actually some links in there to organizations like Our Data Bodies and Poor People's Campaign that are actually doing some advocacy around rights, digital rights to our own data, and being able to have that control over that data and where it goes. And at the end, I also talk about the profit motive and just sort of advertising in general and how that impacts both traditional media and digital media as well. So that is what's in there. I don't know how are we compared to 15 minutes, Renee? Am I over, under?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, Gus. I'm just astonished at what a great job that you have done giving us a big overview. And you have incited our curiosity about wanting to go look deeper. Now, I saw Marta hold up a digital copy of the book.
Yay! Awesome, Marta.
So we're going to do a scavenger hunt activity that will involve you kind of going out and looking for some of the cool stuff that is in Jillian's, on her website, or in her book. So let me explain to you how that's going to be working. Give me a thumbs up if you've done a digital scavenger hunt on Zoom before. No one? Oh, well. So you are going to enjoy it, I am sure. So I'm sharing my screen with you. And if you take a look in the chat, in the chat room, I have placed the link to this, this activity. So let me talk you through it first, then I'll have you go look at the slides, and then we'll get started. So here are the instructions. Our point, what's the purpose of this activity? Our point is to bring up ideas that we encounter on Gus's website that are interesting to us and that we think we want to talk about and share. So that's really, it's an excuse. A scavenger hunt is an excuse for a conversation, but also a little bit of discovery. So you're going to work in a small group of 5 people, and you're going to explore the website to search for information relevant to your question. I'm going to give you a scavenger goal. You're going to try to find the most interesting ideas that Gus offers in the brief time that you have, of course. And then you're going to write something on your Google slide to describe something interesting or important that you found. And all of that is by ways of discussing your own answer to the question, sharing ideas and stories and experiences that are relevant to you, right? So this is really an excuse for a conversation. It's structured in this way. There are topics that you can choose one or more with your breakout room partners. Maybe you'll focus on shopping Oh, that's a spelling error there. Do you notice that? Oh my God. Sorry about that. Shopping sites and reward cards. Some of us are fascinated at the way this raises issues about privacy and tracking. Sharing private photos online. Improving your search skills. Malware and computer problems. Alexa and other digital assistants. As you see on my slide deck, I've given each topic a kind of blank page. So if you and your team decide you really want to focus on Alexa and digital assistants, your first step is to see if you can go to the website and find stuff, right? And Gus has a number of creative tools that you can use to search for things like Alexa, right? And so as you go explore and find, you can discuss what you find, and one or more key ideas are going to come up. You may choose to focus on one topic, or you may skitter around as your team decides. Now, before we go any further, let me see a thumbs up if you have a basic understanding of what's going to happen in the next 15 minutes. Basic understanding of what's going to happen in the next 15 minutes. Anybody have a question?
I have a question. I'm just wondering, I'm fascinated to see how you run a breakout group in Zoom.
Oh,
Because I've never seen it before.
Well, we've got some very experienced folks here, Gus, so they're going to help you. Marta.
Yes, where did you find the search field in the web page?
Oh, great question. So here I went to the website, Keep Calm and Log On, right? I went to the main website here. And actually, I saw the search button up here. See?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah,
Great.
I saw it there. So let's see, what was another topic? Malware, right? So she's got lots of things. Now, of course, you only have a little bit of time, right? And really remember, the purpose of this is to have a discussion, but see what you can find. See if you can bring back one interesting something, right? That you get a chance to discuss and share with the group. Okay, I'm now going to break you into two groups. You have about 15 minutes for your conversation. Have fun. Rooms are opening. Make a new friend. Engage in some robust conversation, and we'll see you back in about 15 minutes. Hey, Katie McNamara, how are ya?
Hey, you. I'm good.
Girl, we're in breakout rooms. I'm going to give you breakout room 1, and you'll see what we're doing. It's something really cool.
Okay, thank you.
Advice.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I find them terrifying. I make software for a living and have for the last 10 years, and I'm the impossibility of doing anything in a long-term programmatic way. And so I feel like a lot of the solutions are to not allow that capability in your home and in your labs. So, you know, even with standards of ethics among engineers and, you know, the best of intentions among the people who create the software and run the companies, there's you know, there's turnover, there's bad actors, there's just bad, and there's the motivations of the people who create these things are not the motivations of the people who consume them. So ultimately, a disconnect. that's my jam.
Sounds like a typical media industry burnout to me.
Yeah, I guess it got started early.
Where did you work in media industry?
I didn't. Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends on what you consider media. I've worked in a lot of digital libraries. I worked at Second Life with Gus. Right now I'm making software to try to make fair pay a thing. Again, programmatically, which is why I have opinions about doing the right thing and how difficult it is to systematize.
Are you still working in Second Life or not?
I'm sorry?
Are you still working in Second Life or not?
No, that was gosh, 10 years ago now. No, right. I was saying, yeah, I make software that is for HR teams, which is attempting to use the powers of large data analysis for good and highlight pay inequity within big complicated companies. Because I do believe that technology is not inherently evil, and often the people who make the bad things are not necessarily ill-intended, but it is very hard to do the right thing sometimes, and it's very easy to just give, for example, blanket permissions for a digital assistant to listen in on everything you say.
I don't use any digital assistant. I don't even have Siri.
So that's a topic we should pick, huh? Digital assistants.
Hello. Yeah.
What do you think?
That's what Erica was talking about.
I just barged in here and started talking. It's not mine. Yes.
Well, it was interesting to know.
Well, thank you.
I don't use any digital assistants at all.
Why not, Marta? Why not?
Because I don't trust it. I when I first got my the first time I got a FaceTime with the iPhone when it came out, the first thing that happened to me was that I connected to do FaceTime, and all of a sudden I was FaceTime with some people that I wasn't even calling, and I said no, that's it with me and FaceTime, and I disconnected everything, and I don't get Alexa or anything. I don't want any home Internet of Things. As long as I can keep it that way, I will. I know it's gonna come a time that everything's gonna be Internet of Things everywhere, but as long as I can, I just keep it away.
Yeah, I'm noticing on the website that Gus says she doesn't use them either, right? You can see she says don't use them, right? Don't use Siri, don't use Alexa, and she says many of these systems don't use the possible best security standards. They cut corners, and unsavory characters can use it to find live streaming video of sleeping babies.
Yeah, that had happened.
Yep.
That's terrifying. My daughter Rachel uses Alexa all the time, and you would think, being the daughter of a media literacy expert, she would listen to her mother, but no, she loves it. In fact, she is very fond of like showing me the things she can do with it, and like add to her grocery list. Alexa, add apples to the grocery list. It's like, you look, write it down.
Yeah, I can do that too.
So, Lisa, what's your perspective on Alexa and Siri and all that?
Well, I'm still I haven't decided yet. So I definitely see that there is a lot of possibility for misuse, abuse. I'm not sure that people are going to just stop using them though, because it's convenient. So I'm not sure I agree with the like advice of just like don't, because people will be just like, why wouldn't I? Because it's convenient. So I guess my preference would be to advocate for more transparency and more literacy on part of users versus just telling them like don't do that, because I don't believe in that. So I guess that's where I stand.
That's a great point. Linda, Alexandra, what's your perspective on Alexa and Siri and all the rest?
I'm very distrustful of them. Like Erica said, I've never felt comfortable with them ever. I have Siri disconnected on my phone. Now with my name, I could never have an Alexa in my house because if I'm somewhere where there is one and I hear people using it, it makes me, excuse me, it makes me crazy because I'm always turning, you're calling me? So right away, it's like, why did they have to pick that name? Yeah, I don't trust it. And even with my computer, with my webcam, unless I'm using it, I have a little piece, I don't know if you can see it, of black duct tape that goes over my webcam if I'm not using it. Because I do that on my children's technology, their iPads, their computers. I've got the black tape over it. And I've taught them now that, and they're teenagers now, but I noticed that it's that lesson, one lesson stuck, and I see them both dutifully putting the tape back on their webcam after they've had a Zoom call for class or something. But yeah, I feel strongly about that.
Linda, what's your perspective on Alexa and Siri and all that?
I don't use it much because I just haven't messed with learning how to do it. My first experience with it when I was at a friend's house one night and the TV was on in the middle of the night and something was said on the TV that woke Alexa up and it started doing its thing over on the other side of it. And I was like, that is too weird.
It was triggered by the sound of the TV, by some words on the TV?
Yes. And all of a sudden Alexa started telling me some things. And so that was really fun. I want to learn more about all of these things. It fascinates me what my children do with these things.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to be open-minded and learn new things.
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting thing around, it's definitely got some appeal. And I can see in Gus's website, she says something like, especially for people with their hands full. And I thought about this a lot because my daughter has got a 2-year-old. So, and she says, yes, my hands are full. I'm constantly running around with the 2-year-old. I don't have time to find my grocery list. This actually is easier than, and is a way for me to manage my budget, she also said. So I do feel like that idea of keeping an open mind is interesting, although I do kind of want to follow these links. I mean, knowing that Google and Amazon workers listen to the recordings of their company's digital assistants, and they regularly hear drug deals, medical details, and people having sex.
Well, I read about that, some articles about that, and apparently, so that was a controversy because first Amazon and Google said that no people listen to this, and then it was disclosed that some people do listen to this, but apparently they only hear a snippet. And there's no name attached to that. So again, I'm not saying it's totally benign and we should be whatever, but it's not anybody can open a record and be like, oh, John Smith is having sex, whatever, right? So,
and it kind of makes sense that if you're going to improve the product, you're going to have to monitor the sound. So it doesn't, you don't build things like this without looking at the data. So it's not logical.
Well, if you work, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you work in an internet services company or anything, I'm sure Erica probably knows about this. But the first time when I came back here in Puerto Rico in 1993, I know we're going to be called in 3 minutes, but I worked for internet services. And one of the reasons why I left was because there were kids working in the company. A 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, which for us is illegal here to have them work in the internet services. But secondly, every night when they went home, they all connected and they all read everybody's email, conversation, chats, and everything. And the next morning, they all commented, "Did you know that this one and that one. You see what happened? Did you read it? And they follow everyone like a soap opera, you know, and they knew, and they, everything they did, and I was like, that's it. I'm not working for this company. I just resigned because I knew it was going to be me against everyone. But since I saw that, and that was then, now forget it. You know, when things, I just think, and I wouldn't mind if this is, it'd be good because for people in assistant technology, for people that are, you know, have handicaps and so forth like that, now they're robots and they do everything for them, fine. But they should also write for blocking and some kind of security. If they're going to have that, they also should have the other side of it where we can also block certain things for the security. That's going to be the future. There should be the other side of it too.
Yeah. Wow, so many great points there. I put on our slide the idea of the people with disabilities. Clearly, these are advantages. But you know, your story, Marta, about the kids who were reading the content of online stuff and then sharing it reminded me of a great scene from this. I don't know if anybody else is watching this Netflix series called Halt and Catch Fire. Is anybody watching this, Halt and Catch Fire? It's a drama, kind of in the Mad Men tradition, a historical drama set during the early years of computing. So we meet a bunch of characters back in the mainframe world, right, with some big mainframes. And then what we're seeing is we're seeing the evolution of desktop computing and then gaming and then the internet chat rooms. And that it's absolutely fascinating because, of course, I had all that technology. I mean, all that technology is probably in my basement somewhere, right? So, but there's a scene when they first invent chat rooms and they create private chat rooms. And then the people who work at the company are reading the private chat rooms. And that is a violation of their terms of service, but they're doing it for entertainment value, just the very same way you described, Marta. So it's like,
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna look for it.
Really, it's addictive show. Be careful. I got to limit myself to 2 episodes a night. All right, looks like we have to go back. I'm going to close the breakout rooms. We'll have a little bit of time to go back and do some synthesis.
She brought us back. You're muted, Renee.
Sorry. Yeah, so I guess when I come back into the main room, I'm automatically muted. But let's just do a little bit of summarizing. What happened in your room, Gus? What'd you guys talk about?
I feel like I biased the entire thing by being there. It's just like, no, I shouldn't be here. But we had a really meta moment though, where it was sort of like, I'm not finding any results on the website for improving search skills. And I was like, well, what happens when you take out some of those words? And so then we were doing searches about searches and talking about searching while we were, so that was pretty
Great. Gus, what platform did you build that beautiful website on?
Dude, I will give you a shout out to this. This is, fortunately, I published with MIT Press, and MIT Press has a great thing for publishing journals called PubPub. And I'm assuming if you just like waltzed right up to MIT Press or to MIT and said, hey, I would like a PubPub for my academic journal community or my academic community, they would say, we will hook you up. So it was really easy to create the structure on the back end of all of this stuff. It was very plug and play. If you know how to use WordPress, you are more than equipped for handling this particular site.
Something that I'm super fond of it is it looks like if I log in, I can actually comment on your post, so that there is kind of a capacity for a online community. Is that right?
Yeah, that is actually a big part of it. Is they want academic like research communities to be in there, and there's some other examples as well of like journals of like science who are using it. And they're having they'd like to have academic discussions there, which is really cool.
Cool. Any other insights come out from your meta conversation about search that your team wants to share with us?
I'm gonna let somebody else.
What'd you guys talk about when it came to search?
we talked about actually how to do the search by practicing on the website. We hit the search button and we put there just the search and then other version of the phrase, and we talked about what we have there. There is a Google class, a class by Google about power of the search and certain type of tips how we can improve our skills. I was talking about, we need to create from Gus's advice, we need to create slightly longer phrases to have healthy results or to get whatever we want. Because when we put less keywords, we are going to have wide sources. While when we put too many keywords, we are going to have very narrowed down. So we need to find a balance between these two. One of our friends told that this is a kind of combination of traditional literacy and new literacy practices together, which I believe digital literacy's definition. So we have very joyful conversation. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, so now we'll turn to the other team, please. The other team, we had a conversation about Alexa, Siri, and digital assistants. Who wants to summarize some key ideas that emerged from that conversation?
Erica, go ahead and say something about how you began with the subject.
And Alexa, say something about what it's like to have the name Alexa.
Yes. I think digital assistants are extremely unpopular with people named Alexa and Siri. There's also a Bank of America one called Erica, which I personally dislike very much.
They're all women names, huh?
Well, of course. Who else would assist you? Sorry.
I actually had that conversation with my teenage daughters last week. My 18-year-old made the observation, and it hadn't occurred to any of us before, that the digital assistants all have female names. And this is from an 18-year-old. She connected it right away. She said, well, it's just perpetuating the stereotype that women are just here to serve men. And does that make, and she also asked a question on, does that not only perpetuate that stereotype, but does that fulfill some kind of goal or something, where maybe some men like asking women to do things for them. Like, whoa, like that hadn't even occurred to me. And my teenager daughters are asking these questions. Like, wow, I'm fascinated to know where those names came from. But
I think Renee, in one of her pages, websites, have a discussion about that. I think I've read something about it. Right, Renee? Do you have some kind of discussion about it?
I don't exactly remember that, but when we did some searching on Gus's website, we found that Gus says, no, don't use them at all. And that actually caused a very robust dialogue. And Lisa, I want you to make your point, because Lisa disagrees with you, Gus, and I think for a very, very good reason.
My point was that I'm not sure that people will listen to this advice. That we were talking about Renee's daughter, Rachel, who is busy with a 2-year-old, and I can imagine a lot of people running around the house trying to manage their daily routines. And if there is an assistant that is so nice and helpful, that and it's becoming more part of our culture, right? So people will like, why would I not use that, right? So my point was that I don't think that they are that I do think that there are issues with those personal assistants and their privacy issues. So I would rather say, well, let's have more people understand those issues, and then also advocate for those behind these technologies. Like Erica said, I like the point that Erica was making, that it's not like they're necessarily evil and guided by like evil motivations, but it's complicated, right? And when a lot of people involved, yeah, so basically just like open up as a conversation and work to improve this, because I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Personally.
Yeah. Lisa, thank you very much for sharing that. Gus, we noticed that, I'm just going to share my screen briefly. We noticed that you scare the shit out of us, right? You scare the shit out of us with these horrifying stories about Alexa that says bad things to babies, that live streams sleeping babies, and they listen to you having sex. I mean, so you got my attention, girl. Right? And I don't feel like you gave me so much. Like, how do I? Like Lisa says, she wants to evaluate the pros and the cons. And you gave me all the cons, and so I don't know really if I have I'm not sure I'm totally empowered to like think for myself here.
I've been grinning throughout this because you guys found your way into the #1 only place on the website where I'm just like, no. And there's a very specific reason why, and that is because this particular subject comes very much from my experience in the security community. If you're interested in learning more, I actually just watched 2 very good talks at the Hackers on Planet Earth conference about the Ring, Amazon Ring doorbell camera and how it works with law enforcement, and how it maps out entire cities, and how you can't opt out of like walking by other people's houses, being involved. And then, if you dig deeper, Hackers on Planet Earth, by the way, I really recommend hope.net is the website. This is an entry-level digital security conference. So like, you don't have to have any experience. They'll give you like, here is the basics, like here's the first time around introduction to Ring. And they also talk about Internet of Things generally. In general, Internet of Things devices, so like web-enabled fridges, and toasters and doorbells and heating and cooling systems, they're known to have a lot more security flaws because they have frequently at the hardware level, there are more bugs in there. So that's one of the reasons why. There's also, if you're not familiar with a site called Shodan, Shodan, Shodan actually lets you do a search for existing Internet of Things computers that are out there and just scan it. And so you can just go watch anybody's security camera anywhere around the world. So somebody created this, in order to demonstrate that there are these security vulnerabilities, and hackers make use of this, and security professionals make use of it too when they're helping people understand. That's the thing about hacking, is that generally it's a two-sided sword. You can both learn from it and also be damaged by it. But there are what we call white hat hackers, like white hat cowboys, who are racing against the clock to make sure that things are stopped. So black hat cowboys, black hat hackers can't get into things. Yeah, so I'll put them in channel 2. So Shodan is the, and I actually don't have a link offhand to Shodan, but if you do a search for Shodan, Shodan will show up. That's how you find IoT devices online, Internet of Things devices. Hope.net is the, actually let me pull up the actual live stream. So Hope had a whole ton of really, really good talks. They always do. I'm biased because this is basically my home conference. And I've helped organize it in the past. But there we go, shodan.io. Thank you, Erica. So yeah, that's the live stream there. That's the entirety of Hope's talks there. You can find the schedule on hope.net as well. There's a lot of good stuff.
May I ask you something?
Yeah.
May I ask you, about the cameras, because here we had an issue in Puerto Rico that people were buying them, installing them, and they never changed the passwords when they installed.
Yes.
So there was like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they were showing up in those channels that you mentioned, those websites, because they never changed the password. But they don't tell them to do that when they install. No. They don't advise them, so most of the people don't know about it. Now, my second question is, you mentioned something about opt-out. Is that something that we can do on these things? Because, for example, with bot calls, that we usually get a lot of them, you can, sign in for opt-out, some web pages or agencies to take care of that. But would that exist for this type of thing, or?
Those are a lot of great questions. And if you dig through the website, there is information on opting out of a lot of different kinds of sites. So there's opting out for advertising sites. for Internet of Things, for these connected cameras, these connected doorbells and things like that, that's really hard because if somebody is pointing the camera at the street and you walk by, you just you don't know that the camera's there. There is nothing you can do. But that's something where we need to start talking to civil society. We need to talk to our police departments. We need to talk to our local city officials and say, this is a problem. This violates our rights. That's why I recommend checking out those 2 talks at Hope. As for the bot calls,
what about hotels? In hotels?
Hotels. Oh gosh. To be honest, I don't know.
Wait. Okay, so it's 1 o'clock. And can you believe it? This topic of privacy and security, and Gus, your expertise on that and helping us think about that in relation to information literacy and media literacy is awesome. I feel like one of the things we might consider doing in the fall is a study group on this book, right? So for DigiURI, maybe we have a book club, because what we have to do really is dig into this book and understand these issues better and come back and have another conversation. Give me a thumbs up if that sounds like a little bit interesting to you. I think so.
I will be there as much as I possibly can too. Yeah, as a resource.
Okay, here, let me just share my screen and suggest to you that you come back to our next week. We have a really great session with Carla Arena and Clarissa from Brazil called The Power of Two. They're going to be reflecting on what they did in the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy. On August 26th, we have a program called The Challenges and Benefits of Being a Media Literacy Entrepreneur. And I want to give Gus a big round of applause for being part of our webinar and sharing her insight with us today. Gus, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who joined. I'm Renee Hobbs, this is the Media Education Lab. Have a great day, you guys. Be safe, be safe.
Thanks.